So this is my sim racing setup, which I use for playing driving games on the PS5. I've had a lot of fun using this entry-level wheel for the last year or so, but I think the time has finally come to say goodbye to the Logitech G29. In today's video, I'll be comparing two different PlayStation compatible systems, the Pro Wheel from Logitech G and Fanatec's new Gran Turismo DD Extreme. Both of these options use a direct drive motor, offering a massive upgrade over the gear-driven G29 and providing an infinitely more realistic and immersive driving experience. What I'd like to find out is which one represents the best overall purchase and is more deserving of your hard-earned cash. Let's get into it. Hey pals, welcome back. So just a quick disclosure, both of these wheels were sent to me by the respective brands, however no money changed hands and the opinions I share in this video are based on my own observations. I've left links to all the products down in the description in case you wanted to check any of them out for yourself. Okay, so kicking things off from a design perspective, both systems include a wheel with a diameter of roughly 300mm and have been designed with the PlayStation in mind. However, there are a couple of key differences which I'll go over in a minute. The wheelbases have less in common, with Fanatec opting for a more stripped back design with this aluminium housing, and has a much smaller footprint overall. Logitech G is offering a bit more in terms of functionality, with the OLED screen and rev lights built into the wheelbase itself, along with a desk clamp system included for those who maybe don't have a dedicated rig yet. Obviously these features mean the base is a lot bigger than the Fanatec system, but not to the point where it feels oversized or cumbersome. I will say that my personal preference leans more towards the Fanatec wheelbase, which looks and feels a lot more premium than the plasticky housing of the Logitech G. I also appreciate that it uses a rail system for easily adding mounting points, which gives you a lot more flexibility and control than the fixed screw holes found on the Pro wheelbase. Shifting our focus back to the wheels, there's a lot more going on here. Obviously these are both officially licensed PlayStation accessories, so they share the same controls and branding, but one of the big differences between them is how they've approached button positioning. The Fanatec wheel has been made in partnership with Gran Turismo and features a few extra inputs specific to this game. This includes 4 of these 5-way directional sticks, which allow you to quickly make changes to the car settings, such as adjusting the fuel map, traction control, and brake balance. This means that the PlayStation controls have been pushed down to the bottom of the wheel, which isn't always the most comfortable when doing things like navigating menus, but having the assistance settings positioned close to where your thumbs naturally rest is definitely the more efficient option when you're actually racing. The layout of the Pro wheel means scrolling through the MFD requires a lot more hand movement, which obviously isn't optimal in game, but I will say this wheel feels a lot nicer to touch and generally speaking the materials are of a higher quality. The various buttons and knobs are just a bit more tactile and the brushed metal faceplate is a lot nicer than the plastic build of the Fanatec wheel. The Pro wheel is opted for a flat bottom design, which I personally quite like, but I know some people prefer a rounder wheel similar to the Gran Turismo DD Extreme for certain playstyles like in drifting or rally events. In addition to the directional sticks, Fanatec has also added a rev strip and 2.7-inch OLED screen directly onto the wheel, along with these flag lights which correspond to in-game events. These are all nice features, and I'm sure there are people who will really enjoy this layout, but the end result just looks a bit busy for me, so I much prefer the more minimal design of Logitech G's Pro wheel. But obviously this is subjective. These are currently the only direct drive options which work on PlayStation without the need for additional hardware. So let's talk about connectivity. Both of these systems offer a plug and play experience with PC and PS5. However, the Fanatec wheelbase can also be used on Xbox when paired with a compatible wheel. This means you can use it across all platforms, which I could definitely see being appealing to some people. However, you'll obviously need to buy a second wheel for this. Updating the Fanatec wheelbase was quite a ball ache if I'm being honest. The software feels a bit dated and it's only available on Windows, which is a bit frustrating as a Mac user. But Fanatec have told me that they're working on a mobile app, which should eventually allow users to update the products without having to dig out their old PC. Conversely, Logitech's G Hub app was super easy to install and use, offering the same modern and intuitive experience as all their other software. So full marks for them here. You can also change the settings of both wheels by using the built-in OLED screens, which gives you the option to adjust things like force feedback strength and brake pressure on the fly to quickly adapt to whatever situation you're in. I'm not going to get super in-depth about all the different settings in this video, there are other creators who can provide a much better overview for this, but I will say that while both wheels have a tuning menu which is fairly easy to understand, the larger screen of the Gran Turismo DD Extreme is able to offer a lot more information about the individual settings and does a much better job of explaining what they actually do. Speaking of the screen, I just wanted to quickly say that while there are probably plans to integrate Gran Turismo's ITM data with this, the on-wheel features don't support this functionality yet, and currently aren't able to make use of any of the telemetry data. So I really hope this gets released in a future software update sooner rather than later. Right, and now we're at the part of the video I'm sure a lot of people have been waiting for, which is comparing the driving experience of these two wheels. So the Logitech G Pro wheel can output 11 Nm of torque versus 15 Nm on the Gran Turismo DD Extreme. However, torque isn't everything, and to be honest, my personal preference is to have this dialed down to about 9 Nm, depending on what car I'm driving in game. The main things I'm looking out for is the level of detail I can ascertain from the force feedback, and the smoothness of the motor's rotation. This is where you'll really feel the difference between a direct drive wheel and the gear-driven system of the G29, which feels very notchy by comparison and offers a much less immersive experience. So one thing to keep in mind is that the Pro Wheel has already been out for a year, which means a lot of popular games can make use of Logitech's TrueForce technology, while the Gran Turismo DD Extreme is still waiting for Polyphony to add support for full force in GT7, which is a bit of a shame, as you'd hope they'd be ready to offer complete integration for the official product. TrueForce and Full Force are essentially just force feedback protocols, which pull data from the game's physics engine, then translates this into more detailed vibrations to simulate things like engine response and various track surfaces. I know they're not for everyone, but I personally enjoy having more textured feedback available and found it made a big difference to my overall immersion. Despite this, both wheels still offer a really good driving experience. The Logitech G Pro wheel is obviously less powerful, but still has lots of detail and is definitely punching above its weight. I turned off TrueForce to make sure I was able to give a fair comparison, and even though the experience felt a bit empty without it at first, I did eventually get used to it. Something I really like about the Pro wheel is how quiet it is, especially with TrueForce turned off. There is active cooling, but I've never actually heard the fan spin up to an audible level, and even though the paddle shifters can be quite clicky, you can dampen this by being a bit more controlled on the release. So this wheel is a great option if you share the space and want to be considerate about noise around other people. With a max torque of 15 Nm, the Gran Turismo DD Extreme is a pretty serious bit of kit and offers a more realistic experience when driving certain cars. It's aimed at more advanced sim enthusiasts, so while you can use it with a desk lamp, I probably wouldn't recommend this unless you turn the force feedback settings down a bit, which sort of defeats the purpose of having this much power available. You'll get the most out of these wheels when using them with a dedicated sim rig, as this will allow you to experience the highest amount of detail and feedback. My lap times were pretty consistent across both systems, but if you really push me for my preference, then I would say that the Fanatec wheels offers a better sensation of weight, and I felt a bit more connected to the car. However, I did miss the immersion of having TrueForce enabled, so depending on what games you play and how patient you're willing to be, this could be an important factor in your purchase decision. So I obviously haven't mentioned pedals yet, and that's because at this price point, sim racing becomes a lot more modular, and there's way more options to choose from to create a rig best suited to your personal requirements and budget. Logitech G still has a very limited ecosystem for the Pro wheel, and as it stands, there's only one set of pedals available to purchase, compared to the 3 or 4 options you can currently buy from Fanatec. This makes it really difficult to compare the two systems as a complete package, but Fanatec were kind enough to send me the CSL Elite V2 pedals, which represent the closest competitor in terms of price and features. Both sets of pedals are fully adjustable, so you can move them around for better spacing, and you can swap out these springs and elastomers to customize the amount of resistance and travel to suit your preference. They also each feature a load cell brake, which responds to the amount of force used rather than just the distance it travels, which is a lot more accurate and can help you be more consistent on each lap. All things considered, these pedals offer a pretty similar experience, but the build quality of the CSL Elite V2 pedals is significantly better, and I feel a lot more confident putting high levels of braking force into this. I mentioned that there's only one set of pedals available for the Pro wheel, but there's actually only one of anything. There hasn't been any updates or roadmap for the ecosystem since the Pro wheel was announced in 2022. I mentioned this in another video I posted recently, but there still isn't an official option for a gear shifter or handbrake, which is just strange when you consider it's been well over a year since Logitech released this product. I've seen a lot of chatter online from people expressing their frustration about this, but Logitech's head of simulation and controllers recently chimed in to say, "We're working on a number of exciting projects and we'll reveal more once they're ready." So there could be some movement on this soon. Obviously this isn't a great look for Logitech G, but if we're going to talk about PR, then it's only fair that I address everything that's been going on with Fanatec recently. If you're not keeping up to date with all the latest sim racing news, the short version is that Fanatec has had a rocky couple of months, and there's been quite a lot of issues with fulfilling orders and customer service. Now, look, I don't know anything about operations or logistics, but obviously this isn't in their best interests, and I would imagine they're doing everything they can to get this sorted. Both of these brands have been caught with their pants around their ankles recently, but that obviously doesn't take away from the fact that they make great products, so hopefully they can get their shit in order soon and work on building their reputation back up, in order to continue providing the value that the sim racing community deserves. The last thing to address is cost. I've already highlighted the situation with pedals, but I'll put the prices for each system on screen in various currencies, both with and without pedals to offer a fair comparison. The Fanatec system is a bit more expensive, but provides the most realistic driving experience and is fully compatible across all platforms, which could be a compelling factor for some people. While the Logitech G Pro wheel offers great value for money, I'm sure a lot of people will feel conflicted about buying into a limited ecosystem, especially since there's no clear indicator of when, or even if, there will be any future products released for this system. So what's the bottom line? To summarize everything I've discussed in this video, these are both great options and they each do some things better than the other. The Gran Turismo DD Extreme offers the most complete and capable experience for driving games on the PS5 and gives you room to grow in a way that Logitech G's system can't really offer. That being said, the Pro wheel feels a lot more polished in some ways, and I've had just as much fun using this system, so I genuinely don't think either one is a bad option. And which one is right for you really just comes down to what you want from a sim racing setup. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you want to know about some of the other accessories I think are actually worth buying for the PS5, then you should definitely check out the video I posted recently, which I'll add a link to. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.